And just for those who are already here, just to give a quick outline of as to what's going to happen. There's going to be a brief intro period. Just going to talk a bit about myself. Then we're going to go into the actual training, and then I want to open it up for questions, and also let you guys know the little bonus that I have at the end of the call. So that's the basic structure of it. I I am known to like to talk, so um, I'll do my best to keep it as concise and as clear as possible. And if you have any questions, you can either write them in the chat and I'll get to them at the end, or we can have just a open Q&A where you guys can unmute yourselves and share what questions you have top of mind. So yeah, a couple more minutes and we'll get started. We might get started early because I'm excited to share this. It's gonna be fun. Let's get it going. I want to get this. Oh, we have one more person. Perfect. Look at that, right on time. I guess now we'll wait a little longer because it's 10:35. We can get this going. Perfect timing. All right. So welcome to my first webinar on how to, oh, sorry, another person came in, on how to boost your testosterone by 57% naturally in the next 60 days. This is going to be my basic framework for how I go about improving my testosterone, but also just general health tips as well, because as I'll get into, you'll notice that there's a big correlation between health and your testosterone levels as a man. But to give some background for as to who I am, what I've done, and why I'm sharing this, when I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so throughout that period, there were many ups and downs with my treatments, and my body suffered severely as a result. I had many rounds of chemo I had to do, then followed by a stem cell transplant, immunotherapy, and then a second stem cell transplant. So my body has really suffered a lot from these treatments. And so it's a big reason why I've started to take my health very, very seriously, and why it's something I'm very passionate about and want to share. So, and more specifically, it was because in the earlier stages, I was told by my doctors that there wasn't really much I could do nutritionally other than eat a balanced diet. But what does that really mean? It can mean any number of things. It's just a very vague answer. And so I wholeheartedly refuse this idea that there was not really much I could do, and all I could do was just eat a bit of a balanced diet. So I knew that there were things I could do that could help my situation with cancer and just health as a whole. And so this is what led to me having such a good transformation and recovery from my stem cell transplant. If you guys saw the image on the banner for this event, it was when I was 170 pounds during the stem cell transplant, and then it was me 200 pounds 7 months later. And so that was all because of the fact that it's not because I'm a genetic freak or anything like that. That was just because I had dialed in nutrition, and I did my best uh, to recover my body. So this is why I'm really passionate about this, and I really want to share this. And so I got to learn how food can help heal the body even when it was destroyed and like unhealthy. So yeah, this is probably, I will call it, the last few years of my like work or journey put into uh a webinar. And so these same exact methods that I use to help heal myself can be what I use, can be what anyone can use to just elevate their health. If you're overall healthy and you have no pre-existing issues, these principles will allow you to go to a whole new level with your health. And so I know that many people do struggle with their health, with their energy throughout the day, with their focus. They have aches and pains in their body, and life feels like a drag. When you have this day in and day out, life really just feels like you have a ball and chain behind you holding you back. But when you start to make some of these very simple changes, and a lot of these changes I do believe are very, very simple to implement, you will start to live a life full of energy, tons of focus. You can recover quickly from workouts, and you can experience life at a whole new level. So, yeah, things just get better when you start living this way. And that's what I'm here to share. And now, because I respect your time, if you stick to the end, I'll be giving each and every one of you a document that outlines everything, my exact protocol from how I went from 170 pounds to 200 pounds in just 7 months after the stem cell transplant. It'll be my entire protocol from A to Z, packed into one document. So it'll be a full resource. There's my nutrition philosophy, training philosophy, what foods to consume, the quality of foods you got to look out for, lifestyle changes, accountability, everything. So as a thank you at the end, I will be sharing this with everyone on the call here. So let's get into the training. And I'm going to share my screen real quick because I have a bit of a document prepared. Here we go. Can everyone see this? If so, message in the chat, put a hand up, wave, say something. We're cool? All right, I'm gonna take that as a yes. So now, first, I want to outline why testosterone is important because yes, it's cool to say, let's increase our testosterone, let's boost testosterone. And it might sound like a pseudo masculine, let's get testosterone, bro. But it goes much more than that. So quickly to set the scene is that the average testosterone today in men is between the ages of 25 and 30 is around 483 nanograms per deciliter. And for reference, in 2001, it was 605. So that's a 21% drop in the last 21 years. And this drop didn't start in 2001. It's been going for way before then. And so some of the typical symptoms that people might experience as a result, or men might experience as a result of low testosterone, is things like low energy throughout the day, poor ability to focus, brain fog. So when you're kind of just sitting there and you can't think straight almost, that's kind of what brain fog is. They have aches and pains in their body because they can't recover quickly enough. And they have immune system dysfunction. So their immune system is not operating properly and they're getting sick all the time. Things like low confidence, low self-esteem. And again, life just feels like a drag. When you're constantly being hit with this stuff, life is tough to enjoy life. And so one thing when we look at why testosterone is important that I really want to highlight is your testosterone levels as a man is directly linked to your health. And I want to repeat this, is that your testosterone level is directly linked to your health as a man, meaning that when you have your health in check, that is when your testosterone can increase. There's nothing, and I want to preface this, there's nothing in this document that is, like testosterone specific that we're going to do. It's all around how can we fully support the body and heal the body so that our body can then produce the testosterone necessary, right? And this is one of the biggest links and correlations that I've found is that nothing we can do is, there's no supplement I'm going to recommend here that is, some random herb from the middle of Africa, right? It's all basic stuff that we can do in the comfort of our own home. And when we look at the symptoms of high testosterone contrast to low testosterone, it's going to be just the complete opposite. We're going to be full of energy. We're going to have laser focus because we're no more brain fog. We're going to be able to recover much quicker from our workouts and actually build muscle. Mental clarity, so decision making is going to be far better. Our immune system is going to be on point, so we're going to avoid sickness as much as possible and not get sick. Our confidence as men is going to go up, more muscular and lean too, because body fat and testosterone are inversely correlated. When one's too high, testosterone can't increase. And then also you'll experience life at a whole new level, right? When you're full of energy, you can think clearly, you can focus, you can get work done, and you have confidence in your day-to-day, things change and people notice that. They may not notice it directly or know exactly why, but they're gonna see someone walking by and think, that person knows, that person's different. I can't say, well, I don't know why, but that person's different. And it's all because of this. And so the goal here is to give you guys the foundations for how you can get your testosterone up to 750 nanograms per deciliter, which is the 57% increase from the average 483. And so now let's get into exactly how we do this. So to just kind of set the frame, there's 3 areas of health that are the most critical. There is nutrition, which is providing your body with the resources to heal and produce testosterone. There is a lifestyle, which is a broad term, but at a very simple level, it is living in a way that is congruent to good health. And we'll get into what that entails. And then this last one, detoxification, which is ridding your body of toxins that are damaging your health. If there is anything here that is somewhat biohacky, it's this, because we're quite literally going to be manipulating our physiology for a specific outcome. right? And I'll get into exactly what that is. Detoxification is one that is a newer one that I've stumbled upon, and I've been trying for about a year now. And it's something that no one talks about, and it has a lot of benefits, and it's very simple to do. It's one of the most underrated things anyone can do at all. So yeah, well, I'll get into that at the end because I think it's the juiciest one. But to start, we'll go with nutrition. And this is one thing I want you guys to get out of the nutrition segment is that quality is king. Okay. Before we start looking at what foods to eat, what macros to hit, all that other stuff, and also what types of nutrition philosophies we're going to get into. Before any of that, quality must be dialed in. And so that's why I always recommend people get the highest quality food that they can afford. If you can't afford, say, the grass-fed beef, you can go for a good quality grain beef. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's what you can afford. As long as you're making sure you're putting in the effort for quality and not going for things that are processed, you're doing a good thing. And that also kind of is to say that processed foods are going to be very damaging to the body and inhibit our body's ability to produce testosterone. But now that we have quality in place, let's look at the 5 foods that I recommend. And so the 5 foods are meat, eggs, dairy, fruits, and vegetables, and in this order, because when we look at most nutritionally dense to least nutritionally dense from this list, it goes meat, eggs, dairy, fruits, and vegetables. And the dairy, ideally raw, and I'll get into when we talk about bacteria. But these are the 5 foods that I recommend because they supply the body with the key nutrients for testosterone. So protein is very, very important for tons of bodily functions, but also is necessary for the production of testosterone. Fat, again, is also necessary for the production of testosterone, but also has a ton of other health benefits, such as cleansing the body and healing the body that can aid indirectly to the production of testosterone. Cholesterol, because testosterone is actually a cholesterol-backed molecule. So you need cholesterol to build the molecule of testosterone. And so if you don't consume enough and you're deficient in cholesterol, your body's going to sacrifice testosterone production for the sake of rebuilding other parts of your body, because another organ in your body that is very, very cholesterol hungry is your brain. And obviously, maybe against our will, our bodies are going to prioritize giving that cholesterol to our brain rather than our testosterone. Next is zinc, and zinc is actually another one that is part of the backbone of testosterone. So you need zinc to produce testosterone, and then vitamin D, because vitamin D is the precursor to testosterone. So all of these you get in ample amounts from these 5 foods. There's also other nutrients in there that are very helpful, vitamin B12, various antioxidants and whatnot, but these 5 are the primary 5 that we should be focusing on, and you get them in ample amounts from these 5 foods. Now, when we look at the target goals and what we should be aiming for from our diet, the daily protein goal should be about 1 gram per pound of body weight, which is about, for people that use the metric system, it's about 450 grams per kilogram. And then, 450 grams per kilogram, I'd say. Oh, sorry, 2.2 grams per kilogram. 2.2, grams per kilogram. Excuse me. And then daily fat goals is 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. This one's a bit higher than protein just because fat is not always used for energy. It's also used for rebuilding parts of the body, healing the body, detoxifying, like we'll get into, and testosterone production. And then last but not least, carbohydrates. This I have as 0.25 to 0.5, just because for me, carbs are a bit of an afterthought. You don't need carbs in the ample amounts that people talk about, though in most cases, I also wouldn't advocate for cutting out carbs completely because they do help sustain the body. Our bodies do like carbohydrates floating in our bloodstream for the brain, for muscles, and all that kind of stuff. So having having some carbohydrates in your diet is very good. And just as an example, I have what this would look like as a daily meal or a day of eating for a 200-pound man. And because it's easier numbers and it helps with the math. So this would mean about 2 pounds of meat per day, because 1 pound of meat is approximately 100 grams of protein. So eating about 1.5 to 2 pounds of meat is going to supply that man with sufficient amounts of protein, also fats necessary as well. Next is about 4 to 5 eggs on top of that. And this again will supply that individual with the perfect amount of protein, with lots of good fats, the cholesterols, tons of vitamins. Eggs are a superfood. Next is one avocado. Avocado, it has the fruit, has the fat, has also fiber, and then something called boron, which is a mineral which helps increase your free testosterone. So testosterone can either be bound to other molecules or it can be free. And when it's free, it can be easily utilized by the body. Boron helps keep the testosterone free. Next is about 1 to 2 bowls of fruit, which this 1 to 2 bowls of fruits will cover most people with about 0.25 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight of carbohydrates with their body. And this can include any sort of watery fruit or anything that ends in berries. So blueberries are great fruit to consume. Mangoes, peaches, oranges, watermelons. Yeah, take your pick. I can't think of a fruit that's I would avoid. And last but not least is 2 cups of milk or 100 grams of cheese. This is also very important to consume because you get tons of good fats, tons of minerals, and then also, as we'll talk about again, bacteria. So this is what a typical day of eating would be for a 200-pound man. Since I weigh about 200 pounds, I'm about 190 now. This is more or less what I eat. And it seems like a lot of food, but when you focus specifically on only the foods that you need and you avoid things that you don't quite need, it's not that bad to get this down. So that is nutrition. Next up, we'll talk about lifestyle. And it's a very broad thing to talk about because lifestyle can literally mean anything. But I've simplified it down to 3 things that both directly and indirectly help with testosterone production. And so the indirect way that they help with testosterone is that they all help keep stress low. The purpose of these is to decrease stress on top of also helping testosterone production, because when your body's in a stress state, it releases cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And when cortisol is high, testosterone is low and you can't produce enough. So until cortisol drops to more baseline levels, that's when your body can really flourish and produce testosterone. So the 3 activities that are very important to do are daily 15 to 30-minute walks outside. And we'll get into exactly why, but walking is one of the best things you can do for longevity, for cardiovascular health, for your metabolism, for your mental health as well, and of course, keeping stress low. But it also helps with vitamin D, which I'll get into in a sec. There is exercise, which is 3 to 7 times per week at moderate to high intensity. So moderate would mean that you're breaking a sweat and you're pretty tired. And high intensity would be that, you're drenched and heavy breathing. And the reason why exercise is good is because it's a positive stress on the body. And so when you positively stress the body, so stressing it in a good way, it's a good way because it has a clear beginning and an end. And once it ends, your body then goes into a bit more of a euphoric state where you just feel super relaxed. And when you do that over a long enough time frame, your overall stress, your average stress is going to drop. Plus the fact that testosterone is the psychological benefits of testosterone is that it makes difficult things feel good. And when you accomplish a difficult thing, you will then release testosterone. And I have a funny anecdote to share in a second. But the next one is quality sleep. Quality sleep is, I think it's one of the best things you can do for your health. And so again, helps with testosterone. If we're getting long enough sleep, but also good quality sleep, very, very important for producing testosterone. Now, a couple key things to talk about when it comes to these 3 is that vitamin D from the sun specifically is essential for testosterone production. Without vitamin D, it's tough to produce testosterone, and the best place to get it is from the sun. So don't fear the sun. Don't hide away from it. I know that right now it's wintertime in most places, so we don't see much sun, but still going outside and getting something is better than nothing. And if you can't get it from the sun, make sure you're getting it from your diet. 2 foods I recommend are pasture-raised eggs and shiitake mushrooms. They have they have pretty good amounts of vitamin D that you can get from your diet. And then if you have to supplement, make sure it's from a natural source, not a synthetic source. And so usually it'll say from shiitake mushrooms or something like that, let you know that's from a natural source rather than synthetic. Next with exercise is that intense workouts drive more testosterone production in the body, both because it's a satisfying thing that you do. It's a difficult feat that you accomplish, but also because your body wants to recover from it. And it knows that testosterone is one of those things that can do that. So it'll bump up your testosterone as a result of exercise. And then one bad night of sleep can cause testosterone to dip, but you can recover from that over the next few days. It's not a chronic problem unless your sleep is consistently bad. That's when testosterone can dip and kind of stay low until you fix your sleep, and slowly then it can recover. And the funny anecdote I quickly wanted to share was when talking about accomplishments and testosterone and like winning. It's a very big positive feedback loop for men, that whenever they win or achieve something, their testosterone increases. And so in a study with men, they wanted to measure testosterone before before buying a Porsche and then after buying a Porsche. And what they noticed is that after buying a Porsche, their testosterone had spiked significantly. And so if any of you guys are teetering on the idea of buying a fast sports car, no, it's not a financial or materialistic decision. It's a health decision, just in case that helps. All right, so that's lifestyle. And in a nutshell, I try to keep it as simple as possible. And last but certainly not least is detoxification. And so with detoxification, this is the newest, this is the one that very few people know about. And it's the one I think is the best one to talk about. So when it comes to detoxification, there's 4 areas that I've identified that we can do on a daily basis. Now, some of these might depend on the country you live in and the laws that are there. And I don't advocate for anyone doing anything illegal, because we are going to talk about raw dairy. But if you do have access to these things, by all means, go ahead and do them. So first things first is high raw fat diet. So consuming a lot of raw fat in the body, it's the fat that is that the body can most easily utilize for any process that fat is used for. So for rebuilding tissues, for energy, and then also for detoxification. And so the way that the body uses the fat is it packages toxins that can include heavy metals, carcinogens, or any other, things that you don't want in your body, any other metabolites in the body. They package it into little globules and then funnel that into your digestive tract and then out the body. And so making sure that you're supplying your body with enough raw fat is essential to keep this process going. And if I can recommend 5 sources for this, it'll be raw eggs. And I know that sounds gross, but you can mix it with some lemon and it'll taste pretty good. Also, make sure it's high quality raw eggs, such as pasture raised eggs. Don't just get any random carton from the grocery store. Make sure it's good quality. Raw dairy. So this can include raw milk, raw cheese, raw butter, raw cream, and then I think I said cheese. But yeah, all those as well. Raw coconut oil or cream, also a very good source. Also is delicious. Coconut cream is delicious. Avocados, like I mentioned before, great source as well, because it has the high raw fat content plus a bunch of other things like fiber and the boron, like I mentioned. And then extra virgin, preferably Greek olive oil. Being Greek, I have no bias in this. This is what the science shows. But any of these consumed at higher amounts than you might think. So for eggs, if you consume the 4 or 5 eggs raw, that's that in your day. If you consume them raw, that's the best way. That'd be perfect for consumption. Raw dairy, if you do a couple cups of milk per day, that's also good enough. Maybe 50 grams of butter, half a cup of cream. You can figure it out in what your body can tolerate, because people aren't used to digesting a lot of fat. So start light and then you can increase. Coconut cream, same thing, and the oil as well. Same as about 50 grams of the oil or half a cup of the cream. 1 avocado is plenty for a day. And then extra virgin Greek olive oil, if you do a couple tablespoons, that should be good enough. Next is probably my favorite, and it is the warm baths. And so the warm baths are probably one of the best things you can do for healing and for detoxifying, because you're quite literally stimulating certain organs within the body to detoxify and get rid of things from the body. So there are 3 things that get activated. So one is your immune system. When you heat the body up, you're essentially inducing a fever. And so when you're in a fevered state, that's when your immune system gets activated and your body starts to produce more white blood cells. And so when you have a bunch of white blood cells running through your body, what happens is that anything that looks remotely suspicious, any toxins, any funny looking cells, any pathogens in your body, anything, or any even damaged tissues, anything that doesn't look right will be killed. The body will do its best to get rid of it. And so that's the way you can get rid of a lot of toxins in the body, but you can also get rid of any bad cells or potentially even cancerous cells as well. You can look at this potentially as a, anti-cancer protocol that can help against cancer. It's not going to keep your cancer away. I'm not going to sit there and make a claim on that potentially yet, but it is very good against that. Next is it stimulates your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is another form of immune tissue or immune system that gets rid of toxins within the body and also fights against pathogens such as viruses and bacteria and helps keep the body clean. When you heat your body up, this gets activated again on overdrive and it'll start to grab any sort of toxins, any metabolites, any funny debris from funny looking cells, take it to your liver, and you will process it out of your digestive system. And then last but certainly not least is your skin. When you heat the body up in water, it makes your skin far more permeable. So things can travel outside of it much easier. And so any toxins, again, that you've built up within your body will get excreted through the body, through the skin. And I should mention that when you do this, do it at 40 degrees Celsius for about 45 to 60 minutes. For any people that use the empirical system, is to go to about 104 Fahrenheit is about 40 degrees. So 40 degrees or 104 Fahrenheit for 45 to 60 minutes. It'll really help detoxify the body. Do it at night as well because you will be drained after, and then go to sleep and you'll wake up. You'll have the best sleep of your life and you'll wake up rejuvenated. It's one of the reasons why I love it so much. During, it's not the most comfortable, but afterwards, it's phenomenal. Next is fasting. And this is probably the cheapest form of detoxification because you're quite literally saving money by not eating. But fasting does similar things to the warm baths in the sense that when you are in a fasted state and you haven't eaten, the body knows, hey, I haven't consumed anything in the past little bit. It starts to go head hunting again for other things within the body, for any funny looking cells, any pathogens, anything like that. It needs to become very efficient. And so anything that could be brewing up in the body that isn't quite what you want, it gives the body an opportunity to say, hey, let's go after and let's get rid of all these things. So fasting, and not fasting too much because that can also help decrease testosterone, but doing a 12-hour fast basically every day is not going to impact your testosterone. It could actually even help it. And then occasionally doing something like a 72-hour fast is also very beneficial because that's when you really push the body to get rid of as much as possible. You cleanse the body wholeheartedly, and you will feel better afterwards once you start to reintroduce food. So again, fasting, great way to get rid of any toxins and detoxify. And last but certainly not least is the bacteria. So this is another one that people might be thinking, bacteria? Because we think of bacteria as bad. And one thing I would like to share on this is that bacteria is only bad in the wrong place. Because we think of salmonella or E. coli or anything like that. And right now, every one of us here on this call, we have salmonella in our body. We have E. coli. It's just that when these things are in the wrong places, that's when they cause damage. And for example, whenever people get strep throat, the bacteria for strep is in the nose. And it's fine in our nose, and we're all healthy in the nose. But then once it goes into our throat, that's when it's a problem. And so we can see how even just a small distance like that, which, small step for man, large step for bacteria, even just a small distance like that, it's a completely different microbiome and has different complete set of bacteria. So making sure that we support our bacteria in the body is very beneficial because when they thrive, we thrive. And bacteria and bad bacteria in the gut is linked to a lot of problems like mental health issues. Testosterone is very, very, very well correlated between gut microbiome and testosterone productions. And then even things like digestion, processing of food is all very critical. So the four places where you can get raw foods and get their bacteria is raw eggs again. That will have bacteria that is good to consume, but make sure, again, from a good source. Otherwise, you do increase the risk of getting potentially sick. Raw dairy, which I touched on, but raw dairy has a ton of good bacteria that would typically be used to provide the calf, assuming it's like from a cow, but provide the calf with the necessary bacteria to build up its immune system. So when we consume it, we also get those benefits as well. Because if there's one thing I forgot to mention was our gut microbiome is what trains our immune system. And so if our gut microbiome is not well in check, our immune system doesn't know good from bad pathogens and cells. So when we have a robust microbiome, our immune system gets trained properly to be able to fight off uh, other bad bacteria and make sure that our cells are kept in check. So raw dairy, so things like raw milk, raw cheese, cream, butter, great sources. And next we have fermented dairy. So fermented dairy is, I would say, a better version, at least for the context of detoxification and consuming bacteria, because when you ferment dairy, you allow the bacteria to proliferate and digest the milk or the dairy. So these are things like kefir is phenomenal, but even cheese is also very good because cheese is effectively fermented milk, and they really allow the bacteria to digest the milk and form these solids. And so, yeah, consuming raw kefir is very, very good for the body. You're basically consuming pre-digested milk. And for anyone that has any sort of lactose problems, kefir is the way to go because it'll be far easier for you to digest and you'll be supplying your body with the necessary bacteria to then digest milk afterwards. I actually have a friend who was able to essentially, for lack of a better word, cure herself of her lactose intolerance simply by consuming raw Parmigiano Reggiano and not raw Parmesan, the actual Parmigiano Reggiano, which is raw. It's from raw milk. And so it has tons and tons of good bacteria. And she was able to just consume a tiny little piece with her breakfast, which first caused some GI discomfort, but over time it went away. And now she's able to consume bowls of yogurt, which she hasn't done in over a decade. So don't underestimate what these tiny microscopic, nearly invisible bacteria can do. They can do a lot. And if we're looking also at plant-based sources for uh, getting bacteria, fermented vegetables are the way to go. So sauerkraut is an option. Also things like fermented beetroot you can go with. There's tons of options. You can find any good source. You can even make these at home. It's very simple. One thing to preface with all of these is if when you introduce new bacteria into the gut from these sources, you are introducing good bacteria into a gut that potentially might have bad bacteria in there. And so what's going to happen is there'll be a bit of a war between the bacteria and you might feel some discomfort. This is going to be okay. You might have GI discomfort. You might have the runs for a few days. That is okay. That is a natural process for the body to cleanse itself. This is something that I experienced when I first had raw dairy when I went to California. It was uncomfortable, but I kept on it, and now there's no issue whenever I consume raw dairy of any kind, and even the same thing with the raw eggs. But now there's no issue, and so just a bit of disclaimer: it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, but once you get over that hump and you've healed your gut, and this is all it takes is these four things: raw eggs, raw dairy, fermented dairy, and fermented vegetables. When you do these things and you heal the gut, your body will be in a much better shape for health, to build a good immune system, for testosterone, uh, and even for mental functions and mental processes as well. So that concludes. I know I just threw a ton at you guys, um, but that concludes the presentation. That concludes the training. And so now I one sec. Let me stop sharing my screen. So now I do want to I know I wanted to keep the information at a high level because I know that it is a lot and we can really go super in depth and each one of these sections can have its own webinar. But I wanted to just give a quick overview of the basics, the foundation for what my protocols are. And it revolves around these three things of nutrition, of lifestyle that's congruent to health, and detoxification. And with these basic tasks, if you do them on a daily basis, we will feel much better in our daily life. And yeah, as much as I would want to, if I had it my way, I would want to keep everyone here all day so we can talk about this. But yeah, I will leave it there to not overwhelm people. And I will be doing more webinars in the future where we can talk about more specifically these different aspects and how you can leverage them for more things. And so one thing I do also want to mention is that this presentation just kind of lays the foundation. So I was only able to get into what to do, and I couldn't quite get into how to do it because I only had the 1 hour to do it. So things like how to source your food, how to program your workouts for optimal muscle gain, how to prepare your food for, essential, how to prepare your food to get all your essential nutrients in, and much more. And so to answer some of these questions, I do have that free document. So if any of you guys are interested, you can reach out to me via LinkedIn or via Instagram if that's where you found me, and I will send that to you. I'll be happy to send it because it will start to answer some of these questions as to how to source your food, how to program, all these different things. And so, yeah, if just to make sure I don't miss anyone, can everyone send me a message on LinkedIn asking that saying that they're on this training and that they are looking for that document. And now, one thing I also want to say, because there was a lot covered here, I do want to make an offer to everyone here for a call where we can ask questions about how we can dial this in and dial this in for your life. So how we can implement this system. And so if you're open to this, I will drop a Calendly link right here in a moment. But effectively, we'll be talking about how we can get this set up for your life, and if it's a good fit, and if you like this training, I am going to offer open enrollment for my program, and for everyone here, they get 2 extra trainings for that program as well. And so my program is everything we just talked about, but implemented, tailored to your life. So I will quickly drop the Calendly link if anyone is interested in hopping on a call, or we can chat about everything we talked about here. One moment. There it is. If anyone is interested in hopping the call, I would absolutely love to talk this through with absolutely anyone. And like I mentioned, if there is a good fit for us to work together, and you guys want help with solving any specific problem, weight loss, muscle gain, health optimization, testosterone, anything of the sort, this is what I like helping people with. This is if there's one thing that cancer brought me, it's the ability to know that this is how I want to help people in the future. And so that's the end of my rambling. I know I've been going on for close to 40-ish minutes. And so if anyone has any questions, please either type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves and share. Please, anything of the sort. The floor is your guys. So if anyone has any things.
Hey, hey, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Hey, I appreciate the training. I figured I'd
Always.
ask a question because I know sleeping is a key component. I think it's more like lifestyle and stuff.
Yeah.
In terms, but I think for me, I've listened to lots of podcasts about sleeping. I've been trying to improve my sleep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for like a year and a half, I've just been waking up in the middle of the night and just it's been one of
That's
those
tough.
things. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you ever had sleep issues or how you help I guess your clients with sleep issues, like
Yeah.
dial in on that. So that's kind of
So
my question.
yeah, no, for sure. So one thing is there's a few things that can impair sleep. One is inflammation in the body. So a lot of that comes from the foods that we eat. So if the foods that we eat cause inflammation in the body, which is effectively an immune response where the body gets stressed out, that can really impact sleep, especially if that's happening later in the day. So as you go later in the day, it's better to leave off of any processed foods or anything that causes inflammation for you, which could be any sort of GI discomfort. It could be any sort of potentially anything that gets your body a little bit too excited. So most of the time, there could be some vegetables that cause that in some people, which is a conversation to be had with elimination diets. But processed food is one for sure to eliminate. The next one that really, really helps me, and this is something that um, I know has helped a friend of mine, and myself as well. But a big one is sunlight. So as humans, we rely on our environment to set our circadian rhythm, and sunlight cannot be underestimated. Even right now, I'm looking outside my window and it's foggy, it's cloudy, there's not much there. But me getting sunlight in the morning, or all of us getting sunlight first thing in the morning, is what really allows your body to know, okay, it's daytime, it's morning, I'm awake. And so you'll have more energy throughout the day. And then once your body realizes that it's nighttime, that's when all the processes for getting ready for sleep start to come into effect. And to touch on what happens later than day, one of the big things to do is to have a proper wind down routine. So for me, what that looks like is any sort of blue lights that I have. I know that I have a light right shining on. I know you can see it on my hand. A light like this that's blue and cold, I will turn off, and I'll instead use warmer colors. I will do my best to not be on my phone. And plus, if I do have to be on my phone, I'll quickly show if you can see, I can set it to be red. And if I do want to be on my phone later in the day, doing that really helps not get the blue light into my eyes. And so things like that also help wind the body down. And one of the reasons why this helps too, besides the physiological effects, is that humans are creatures of habit. So when we do habits enough, eventually, when we start that habit, it'll trigger the body to start to prepare for whatever that is. So if we have a nighttime routine that we do, when we start that nighttime routine, that's when our body will start to know, okay, we can start to relax now. We're not going to have to get up to go do anything. We're not going to have to think too much. We're not going to have to work too hard. We can start to relax and get to sleep. And so if you give yourself at least half an hour for a wind down routine, that is going to play a big role. So if you like to watch movies at night, try to cut the movies at least half an hour before you go to sleep. You go take a warm shower, which also helps. Um, Turn down the lights, try to get off your phone. Reading also helps. And I know at night, whenever I'm reading, I know that it's time to go to sleep when I read a whole page and think to myself, what did I just read? And that's how you know it's the perfect time to go to sleep. So things like that can really help. And if you're really in a pinch for sleep and you really need to get a good night's sleep, a warm bath is also very, very good. If you do a warm bath for 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 minutes, afterwards you will be very drained and you will fall asleep and sleep like a baby. Every sleep that I've had after a warm bath has been phenomenal. So I know that was a bit of a drawn out answer. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to sleep, but if I can quickly sum it up, it is cutting out processed foods and decreasing inflammation in the body. It is getting sunlight first thing in the morning, having a wind down routine, and then also if you're really struggling, getting a warm bath in. That's also very important as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Honestly, the funny thing is the things you said, like I've started, getting rid of, any screens, trying like an hour before,
Yeah,
trying to do more like reading. Um, I've actually tried the warm baths a few times, funny enough, but I've also, which kind of brings me to another thing, unless somebody else has a question. But what do you think about cold exposure? I've done that
yeah,
a lot, like cold ice plunges and or cold showers and stuff.
yeah,
I know you didn't mention it, but do you, what's your thoughts on that? Because there's
for
a
sure.
lot of it out there, as I'm sure you see.
Yeah, yeah, and I've experimented with cold exposure as well. So I overall I would say cold exposure is a good thing. A couple things to keep in mind is doing it too late in the day can negatively impact sleep because when we think about what cold exposure is, it's a very severe stress on the body. It's another positive stress on the body because it has a clear beginning and a clear end. And so if I would recommend anything for cold exposure, it would be to do it earlier in the morning because in the morning if you do a lot of the more positive stress things activities that really helps sleep later in the day. So getting sunlight first thing in the morning is a bit of a stressor in many ways. Your cortisol does increase. Working out in the morning is also positive stress, and it can be very beneficial to do that early in the morning to help with sleep. But then also cold exposure um, is also very important to do early in the morning as well, so that it can help with sleep later on in the day. I wouldn't do too long of cold exposure. I'm not sure how long you do it or in what mediums. I don't know if you do an actual plunge or if you do a cold shower, but regardless, it doesn't have to be that long. It doesn't have to be like 5 minutes in the ice tub. It could just be 1 to 3, and that'll get you all the benefits of it. We don't all have to be Wim Hof. Um, but yeah, cold exposure is a good thing to implement, and it can also help decrease inflammation in the body. I just wouldn't do it too late in the day because it's very, very stimulating because it turns on your fight or flight system. So your sympathetic nervous system, it's your fight or flight. It activates that, and so you don't want that too late in the day. You want to be zen late in the day. That's why the warm bath is the way to go.
No, I appreciate that. That makes sense. I've learned it pops up a lot more, yeah, about positive stress, obviously exercise, cold exposure, doing
Yeah,
those things that like are stressors, but they're timed as well as, so then, but then you see the benefits. There's a lot of benefits that come after, exposing yourself to those stresses and then
absolutely.
ending them and they're after those. So yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
No worries. No worries. And yeah, positive stretches are probably one of the best things we can do for the body because that's how our body adapts. Without these stressors, we don't build muscle, we don't improve our immune system because even improving your immune system, it requires you to essentially get sick sometimes. And then even when I talk about the gut microbiome and how it trains the immune system, to train your immune system, it requires you to consume bacteria. So then it can start to say, okay, this bacteria is good, this bacteria is good. This one's this one's not good because it's in the wrong spot. So I have to get rid of it. But otherwise it would be fine in another part of the body. So yeah, positive stressors I'm all for, but keeping them as early in the day as possible is recommended so that when nighttime comes, you can just, have a nice meal, have a nice warm shower, warm bath, read, dim the lights, and then, yeah, go to sleep. Is there anyone else that has a question? I'm going to quickly take a sip of water.
Hi, Yanni.
Hey,
How you doing? Great presentation. Thank you very much for all the all the wonderful information.
thank you, thank you.
Got a question.
Yeah,
Your aunt and I, getting uh, into our advanced old age,
yeah,
have in the past few years upped our weight training regimen significantly,
yeah,
hoping to stave off sarcopenia,
mhm,
and all the ravages of old age.
yeah,
So obviously your testosterone advice comes in really handy for older people.
for sure.
Actually, much more than the younger crowd.
Yeah,
The older people are the ones that need it the most.
yeah,
It's a necessity of life, and we are seeing significant results in how in muscle mass formation,
yeah,
and at least we're not seeing a decline in muscle mass,
yeah,
and that goes for both your aunt and myself.
yeah,
Now, so the only thing now that comes into play is the when you're handling significant amounts of weight
mhm,
on a daily basis, and doing exercising to failure, and at high intensity.
yeah,
Uh, the question of injuries, soft tissue injuries,
yeah,
comes in, and also the question of um, skeletal injuries. So what
mhm,
I'm referring to is basically osteoporosis.
yeah,
So do you have any advice on how to uh, address the ongoing issue of osteoporosis, and in terms of nutrition, and also the secondary issue would be um, the ligaments and tendons.
yeah,
How do you because the recovery time of a ligament is, although it's a soft tissue, is not really the same as muscle tissue, which
yeah,
is far
yeah,
faster and easier to do. So any advice for older people on that in that regard?
for sure. So when we're talking about, I'll touch on the injury aspect of it with osteoporosis first. So to start, when it comes to avoiding injuries and reaching failure with higher intensities, you can reach failure with high weights or with a heavy weight, sorry, or lighter weights. So as long as you're reaching muscular failure, that's the important part. So if you want to go the higher intensity route where you're taking yourself to failure, you don't have to do it with a heavy weight per se if you're looking to avoid failure. You can do it with a lightweight, and as long as the form is done correctly, then you greatly minimize the chances of injury. The next one is making sure that the more mobile joints of the body are properly warmed up and are properly activated. So what I mean by mobile joints are things like our shoulders. Our shoulders, they can move. It's a ball and socket joint, so it moves like this. Our hips are another mobile joint. Our ankles are another mobile joint, and also things like our mid back is also mobile. But making sure that these muscles are properly activated with a proper warm up so that the supporting muscles on the back here are strong, that is another way that you can avoid injury, especially when you're lifting. I know things like over the head can be very dangerous for some people because they haven't developed the shoulder stability to protect their muscles. So activating the mid back and what are called the sits muscles, so supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscap, and teres minor. If you activate those ones, which are muscles of the scapula, those help protect the shoulder. And so, yeah, making sure you're warmed up, and also you don't have to do heavy weights. You can just do reps to failure, and that's all that's necessary. As for osteoporosis, training wise, exercise is probably the best thing against osteoporosis. And if there's one thing to worry about with osteoporosis, it's not about like damaging a bone in your arm, like up in your upper arm, lower arm, or even like a femur or shin. The biggest fear of osteoporosis is what's called a vertical compression fracture in the spine. So when you have your vertebrae sitting on top of each other, it's when they kind of compress and you break it there, because that's a very difficult break to fix, especially in someone that already has osteoporosis. And so if there's any worry about osteoporosis, which during when I had cancer, I had worries about osteoporosis based on some of the medications I was taking. And so I took necessary precautions to avoid loading my spine. And so if there's a couple things on this, always making sure that your upper body is supported in any exercise that you do. So something like a bench press, for example, where you're laying flat on a bench and pressing forward, that's a great exercise to do because there's no load on the spine. But if you're going to do, say, squats, for example, making sure that the weight is attached at the hips is the way to go, because then there's no compression on the spine. So, because what I would do is I would attach a weight belt, and then I'd put plates there, and that's how I would get my squats in. You can't do as much weight, but if you go to a gym that has like I think it's called like a sumo machine, then you can get heavier, more intensities in as well from there. So training wise, it's very important. But then also, if because I would never advise not training your low back, there are still things you can do to make sure that it does get stimulus, because in order for the bone to be preserved, it needs that muscular stimulus on it so that it doesn't fall apart. So that it knows, okay, I need to continue remaining strong. So for that reason, I'd also recommend things like Superman's, where it does have some muscular tension on the backs of the vertebrae, so that they know, okay, we're still being used. We should reinforce these a little bit. And then even some light carrying, very, very light carrying of, say, 20, 30, maybe even 40 pounds can also help, like farmer's carries can also help, just so that it gets a bit of that stimulus, but nothing overwhelming, right? And then there's also the nutritional aspect to look at. And if there's two things to really make sure we're getting enough of, it's calcium and vitamin D, because these two need to come together in order for us to help produce rebuild our bone. So when we're getting enough vitamin D, either through sunlight or through the what's it called? Our diet.
Supplementation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I blanked. Either through the sunlight or from our diet, we're gonna get it's gonna help us a lot. So foods to consider are dairy, in real dairy, not any fake dairy like soy or almond or whatever, either from cows, sheep, goat, whatever you can find. And then eggs as well, because if they're good quality eggs, they will have vitamin D in them. They're one of the few foods that have vitamin D inside them. Good quality fish as well also has a bit of vitamin D. Like good things like salmon, like wild caught salmon is a good idea. But then also shiitake mushrooms have vitamin D in there as well. So if we're consuming a diet that is congruent with preventing and preserving bone, or preventing bone degradation and keeping up bone strength, it's going to be involving those foods as one of the staples of the diet. And then to touch on, I'm sorry, I forget the second part of your question. Was it injury?
Oh, yeah. So it was, just trying to avoid osteoporosis and the obviously that's, if you're going to get some, you're going to get some. And then the secondary aspect is to how to deal, like how to structure your exercise regime around avoiding a potential injury bone.
Okay.
Because again, my premise is based on the fact that you're using very heavy weights.
Yeah.
So you touched on that earlier, saying that you can exercise to failure with low weights, just minimizing the impact. And the spine loading is also something very important. Because that's, especially if you're doing squats or if you're doing calf raises, things like that, you really, really load yourself with a lot of weight, and almost like a you're actually compressing your spine purposely in
Yeah.
that respect. So
Yeah.
that's a interesting thing.
Yeah. So for this, a key thing to remember is the key thing with this, sorry, is the higher the load of the higher the stress of the actual workout, so how intense it is, the longer the rest has to be. So as you get older, you will need more rest. Oh, yeah, there you are. As you
Yeah.
get older, you will need more rest from the workouts that you do, especially if you're going to failure. You will need extra time. And also, we're talking about things like soft tissue, like ligaments and tendons. That is also going to require a lot of time. But the stimulus still has to be there. So one hypothetical way to go about training is that you only have 2 days of the week where you go really hard, and the other, say, 3 or 4 are lower intensity. So you go to failure on
Mm.
Monday, you give Tuesday, Wednesday, you still go to the gym, but you do lighter exercises, things that are more for, say, balance or for cardiovascular training or for stability training, like core training, shoulder stability, hip stability, stuff like that. And then you can come back on Thursday, and that's when you do another intense session. Then Friday, Saturday, you can do lighter sessions again. And that way, you're still getting 2 sessions of higher intensity, stimulating muscle building type workouts, but you're not overdoing it, especially because the workouts in between. I find whenever I do something in between workouts, it doesn't have to be a full workout. It could just be something. My body heals faster from it. I'm not quite
Mm.
sure why this is, but maybe because it reinforces the stimulus on my body to say, hey, repair, repair. But yeah,
Yeah.
balancing between the intense loads with the non-intense load is a great way to not only allow the body to recover, but avoid injury. And then on top of that, also not over fatigue yourself in the process. Because you don't want to overstimulate, because you can, especially as you get older, you can work yourself to the point of degradation,
Mm.
both with your muscular tissue, but also bone tissue, and then soft tissue as well. And then when it comes to, I know I haven't touched on this too much, but when it comes to rebuilding ligaments and stuff, the this is a difficult one because what happens with chronic injuries is that it gets stuck in a cycle of an early remodeling phase, and then it gets damaged again, and then it has to go through an early remodeling phase and doesn't allow that modeling phase to mature. So there's various stages that it goes through: the inflammation stage, remodeling stage, repair, and then the sort of finished product of it. And so when you first injure something, say it's your patellar tendon, I know that people have a lot of patellar tendinopathy. What happens is there's the damage, there's a degradation of it, and then the body starts to lay down fresh collagen, but it's disorganized. It's not nice like it should be. It's not layered nicely. It's kind of just whatever it can get. And then over time, it creates the mature collagen that's nicely aligned. This takes time with both the proper stimulus, but also not overstimulating it, and then nutrients as well. So when we talk about protecting ligaments and tendons, collagen and vitamin C in conjunction with each other are very, very important to consume. Collagen helps with the uptake of, sorry, vitamin C helps with the uptake of collagen and the repair of ligamentous tissues or of other soft tissues. So we can get into the specifics of what to do for each, but slow, very careful stimulus on these tendons and ligaments. Tendons are easier to heal than ligaments because ligaments basically have no blood supply. But tendons
Mm.
can be healed faster because they have a better blood supply. So incorporating the collagen, the vitamin C, and very soft, gentle progression of exercise is very, very important. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
Yanni, thank you very much. That's
no worries.
that kind of wraps up my questions.
Yeah.
So the to recap, low weights, good form, warming up joints, no spine loading, and the classics of nutrition. And
Yeah.
collagen is an interesting one. Your aunt is actually taking collagen for her, especially for her knee.
Mhm.
She's trying to rebuild the ligament there, that has kind of worn away. So that actually, I mean, empirically now we don't have any hard evidence if
Yeah.
that's working or not, but it appears to be working. There's like a kind of a promising approach that she's on, and to
If she's
do that.
if
So,
she's
but
feeling
yeah, thank you so much for the advice.
no worries, no worries. And if she's feeling better on it, then by all means she should keep it up, because whether it's for specifically her knees, which I know are in yeah, they need like they need improvement, I guess,
Yep.
for lack of a better term. But whether it's for her knees and her osteoarthritis, or if it's just for general health,
Yeah. Oh,
it's a phenomenal thing to consume.
yeah. Would you advise that for someone like for us, like men,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
uh,
So collagen is a great thing to consume. Plus, also collagen beyond bones and ligaments and stuff is also very good for our gut. It helps repair our gut because with everything that passes through our guts, like our intestines, it goes through. There's going to be some damage from any acids that come from our stomach, from the bacteria fighting each other, from potentially any foods that haven't been properly melted down. Like there's a whole bunch of chemical reactions going on in our digestive
Mm.
tracts 24/7. And so bringing or consuming collagen to go in there and providing our body with the resources to heal the gut, both like on a physical level, not just the bacteria, but on a physical structural level of the gut, can also help significantly on top of already helping us with bones, ligaments, tendons, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm monopolizing the floor here. I pass
No
on
worries.
my the baton to anybody who has any other questions.
No worries. No
Thanks
worries.
again, Yanni.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Are there any other questions? If there's not, then I think we might conclude this webinar here. I'm gonna give a couple seconds in case anyone's typing anything or anything like that. But if not, I do want to thank everyone for coming. I do very much appreciate everyone's support for this first webinar. I think I enjoyed this. I had fun, and I hope that everyone got something out of this. At least it can take one or two key things from this training on how they can boost their health. And I know that we have a couple of girls here as well. And while this, like, if you were to practice these things, you're not going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it would help with hormonal balance even for women. So yeah, I do appreciate everyone being here, and I look forward to the next one. And hint, it's going to be in February. So thank you so much. I hope everyone here has a wonderful day. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Yanis Spitsakis, I know most of you guys came from LinkedIn. If not, Instagram, if that's where you came from, or yeah, we'll find a way. So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate everyone, and I hope you guys have a great day.
You too, Yan.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.